Omid and Kojo Show.
Welcome to the Gigs and Gigs podcast.
Featuring Lil Peen, Big Dick Skull.
It's true.
And
What can I say?
King Penis. Oh, no.
I'm your host, Omid,
I'm Kojo.
and together we're Omid and Kojo.
And also this Peen, Kyle, our buds from
Yeah.
Garrison.
Yeah, we're all buds here. Good buds.
Just a couple of buds.
so as you can see, we have to share mics, so we're all
Yeah.
very close.
Yeah, we're getting pretty close. We'll be talking like this for most of it.
I feel so
We're going to
safe.
take it in turns to talk. We're going to be sensible.
So we have a conch system. So any of you that have read Lord of the Flies, is it Lord of the Flies? Mate? Lord
I
of the
don't know.
Dance.
Just
It's
tell
not
us the conch.
So basically, this is the conch, and the conch dictates who is speaking. Whoever is holding the conch can speak. If you are not holding the conch, do not speak.
That's like
You're speaking. Are you holding the conch? No, because you're rude and you disobeyed the law. Here you go.
Oh, I've got the conch. I didn't ask for it, but I've got it now. Kojo, you look like you might want the conch.
I got something to say. Alright, so today we're going to talk about the history of the Garrison. We're going on a trek down memory lane. We're going on a tour de Garrison, a 1,000-mile journey through the Garrison's rich history. And we're going to learn a thing or two. Peen's going to tell us about his mysterious heritage. And Kyle's going to tell us what's growing in his belly button. So it's going to be a very interesting one today. And to start us off, Peen, why don't you tell us where you first met Alex Omid from?
I just want to say real quick first, I feel like the conch system / orb system is kind of limiting the conversation.
Yeah, it's not gonna work.
Let's just put the conch back as a centerpiece.
It's mayhem without the conch.
I mean,
like it.
It's so ordered, it's almost too ordered with the conch.
Whose idea was the conch anyway? I'm pretty sure it was your idea, Pete, wasn't it?
Okay, I'm going to put the conch down and I'm going to talk about Alex Omid. I'm pretty sure I met you in Denmark.
No, it was before that, you dirty old fruit.
Hook? Oh yeah, the hook gathering, yeah. Oh, it's off to a great start. Well, see, this is the thing. So I feel like I kind of met you at Hooked. Like we kind of like crossed paths.
Yeah, we had that kind of high.
Whoa, stop. Yeah, we both do flips.
Yeah,
I feel like we actually like got to know each other in Denmark.
Yeah, yeah.
That's where we kind of became mates.
That's where our budding friendship began.
And then I don't know. I guess we went to that beer place.
We went to a beer place. Let me share a little story about Pete.
Oh, this is tragic, bro. Oh my god.
Alright, so I forgot about this. I don't even know if I brought this up to you before. So we're in Denmark. We're all just kicking it. We're going to the gym, I think, from wherever we were staying.
This is at the end of the day, the beer place.
No, not the beer place.
Oh, okay. You tell your story. Sorry.
If you've got another tragic story, I want you to tell that. But basically, we're on public transport. And this was something I didn't even really think about. I just thought it was a hilarious one-off thing. We're on public transport. None of us has got a ticket. Peen ends up being the lucky soul that gets fined by the ticket inspector. And so he sat there and he goes completely silent. He's seething. I didn't realise what was happening. And then we got off the bus shortly after. He wouldn't speak to me. He got off the bus shortly afterwards. And just as we got off the bus, everyone's talking, having a laugh, having a great time. And then immediately afterwards, he just kind of walks a few paces and then screams as loud as he can in a fit of rage. And then he was just straight back to normal. And that's become the Peen that we know and love.
See, I was the same right from the beginning.
I forgot about that. I always forget about that.
I didn't even know that's what you were going to tell me.
Jay Fung told me about that one.
Yeah, it's
The other day.
Classic Pete.
Peen tale.
But yeah, we ended up going to Denmark, and we did a bunch of flips. And I was like, "Oh, you're from our neck of the woods. We can hang out." And then yeah, that was it.
and that was the end of it.
Then fast forward 4 years and we live in this house. Yeah. So, Kojo, why don't you be a doll? Tell our lovely viewers at the Omid and Kojo show how you met Mr. Carl Skelly.
Could I have the conch, please? I'd prefer to do it with the conch. Thanks. Right, so I first met Mr. Carl Skelly at Swag Gathering in Sweden.
Oh yeah.
In 2013. Didn't really talk to him much then though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a laugh. He did some scoop dubs. I was like, wow, look at that scoop dub. He's great at that. I was taken aback by the quality of his scoop dub. And I was there with a young Omid who was flailing around.
I kept trying to land on the ceiling because the ceiling and the floor were the same colour.
But that's not where I really met Carl Skelly. I really met Carl Skelly in a box at a different time in Sweden.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it was Court Gathering,
Oh,
2014.
okay. That was after though. That was after the.
after.
This is the first time we actually properly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nah, hadn't you met Carl before that even?
No.
No, you had because...
I saw him at Genetrix. I didn't.
Yeah.
I have a really embarrassing story.
But so Court Gathering, the floor was being put away, and in a lot of Swedish gatherings, then the guests and everyone who's at the event has to do a load of work. So it was all on us to put the floor away. It was a load of work. We were getting splinters. It took ages. So we ran away and we hid in a box.
Lovely box.
It was a lovely box.
Yeah.
And that's where our friendship began. And here we are now.
Yep.
After that box, I was never the same. Well, we travelled Europe for 2 weeks. The week after, that helped as well.
Yeah.
But mainly the box.
It was mainly the box. Yeah.
Anyone else who wants to conch?
Well, let me have the
I'm
conch for just a
reinstating
second.
the conch system.
So
I like it.
I just want to ask Mr. Carl Skelly how you met.
Say me. Say me.
How I met.
Ask about me. Ask me
How you first met young Aaron Skelly.
All right. Okay. So it's a lovely story. Okay. Aaron Skelly.
No, our old boy Pete.
Okay, Peen. How I met Peen. Okay, the year. Okay, I'll set the scene. The year is 2008. MSN. Everyone's on MSN all day, every day, or maybe that was just me.
MSN is like
I
the
was on MSN.
just MSN was the Instagram of 2008.
Yeah, well, it was the everything. It was like the Facebook more. Like you just spent all day
Facebook
on,
and Instagram,
on MSN.
Snapchat all together is MSN.
Yeah, and so I'd spend like pretty much all my time on there. I'd either be outside tricking, making videos about it, at school or not being at school, or on MSN. And then through my videos, Sean added me on MSN. I think he got my email from my YouTube channel. And then it was kind of weird because I was like, I didn't know any other trickers like at all. I didn't even know what tricking was. I was just doing flips and that. And then you're like, oh, you do tricking. What's so funny?
Dirty little pig.
I was just having a laugh at this dirty little pig.
Listen. I was a 13-year-old boy. So was Kyle, and it was okay. It was normal.
It was normal. It was cool.
It wasn't weird.
Searching like, where can I get his email address? Where can I get his hotmail
I think
address?
I was watching like backflip. I was looking up backflip videos and shit. Like like that ninja.
Urban Ninja.
Right?
Yeah.
And eventually,
My video came
Power
up.
Tricks 3 or something came up. And then I was like, yo! And then you saw you were in Scotland, and I was like, yo! It was just super like. Random.
Yeah, but I thought it was really cool because like obviously you started doing flips through the route of like tricking. You knew people that were doing tricking. For me, I didn't know anyone. I was just doing flips, as I would call it. Like, and then I remember when we first started talking, I thought tricking was really lame. Actually, like I thought like tumbling and things like that were cool, but I used to think like, and even when I look back now, in 2008, a lot of tricking is actually really lame.
Well, that's why a lot of people didn't like it, because you had to really kind of see what it could be to see that it was cool.
Exactly.
A lot of what people were doing wasn't that great yet.
Yeah. But anyways, we talked just online like a lot actually, like a weird amount of time, and it was just because like I remember like I was out doing my flips all the time, none of that. I was out doing my flips all the time, and like I didn't have anyone to talk to about my flips. Like no one cares about your like people that don't do flips. Like you can't be like, oh, I landed this new back 360. They're like, what? So, but like like it was cool. Like we would just talk like that, and then we met up after like a couple of months, and then we've been together ever since.
It turned out Pete was a 46-year-old man.
Yeah,
and that's why we live with the 50-year-old Pete.
And that's why we still live with him. He's part of my life. He's part of your guys' life now as well. He's here to stay.
He looks after his skin though.
Yeah.
He's got a cracking set of skin.
I mean, his age doesn't show. He looks at about 35. I mean,
Drink water.
Hydration.
Now,
I'm actually about to come out with new peen water. $5.99 for a crate. It's a steal. Look out for that. It's coming soon.
anyway, really embarrassing story for Omid. The first time I met Carl Skelly was at Genetics Gathering. That was my first gathering?
Second gathering.
And yeah, so it's like the end of the gathering. It's it's the Saturday after the night show, or Sunday or something, end of the gathering, and everyone's just kind of going up to Velu and stuff, and getting pictures with him and all that sort of shit. And Kyle was just in the corner, just doing scoot up. You actually were at the time. You doing scoot up in the corner because you were so
train.
hyped after the
Yeah, you
battles.
gotta train it whenever you can.
So Kojo was like, that was Kyle Skelly. I was like, okay, because he told me about him before the gathering. I didn't really know who he was. And then Kojo was like, go and ask him for a picture. Go and ask him for a picture. And so I went over all sheepish like, and I was like, oh, you're Kyle Skelly, right? And he's like, yeah. I was like, can I get a picture, please? Actually, it was more like, you're right, can I get a picture, please? Please. Excuse me. Excuse me. I'd like to join in a picture with you. And he was a bit taken aback, obviously, from this absurd Dudley boy. And there's just a picture of me and Kyle, just kind of like.
It's weird. It's weird because I don't remember this at all. I don't remember it at all, but I would love to see that photo.
But that picture is on. Actually, you know what? I might have it's on a BlackBerry, my old phone. It's on a BlackBerry somewhere. It's on a BlackBerry that I had somewhere. And I don't know where that BlackBerry is, but it might be in a set of drawers at my mum's house. So I'm gonna go and have a look through it.
I would love to have that photo.
They had the external, because that phone broke, but they had the external like SD cards, the micro SDs. So if I can get hold of that, if it's the right one, with this picture of me and you, that'd be fucking gold. It'd be great. It was so awkward. I hated it. I remember looking at it and being like, that was trash. Why did I do that?
I'm glad Sorry.
Oh, no,
sorry.
please.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Sorry for interrupting.
Here you go. Here's the conch. Let's settle this.
I just wanted to say I'm glad I was a part of that. Okay.
Sorry again about the interruption.
Lovely. So that's pretty much how we all roughly met.
Me and Kojo. We met at an airport in Dublin.
Yep.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah, boy.
And that's the end of that.
Oh, I just remembered as well that
And the rest is history.
for a long time, you were the guy that just did really good impressions of Napoleon Dynamite in my head. It was maybe like, because Kojo...
5 years.
Even to now.
Oh yeah, I came back and I was like, oh, there's this guy and he had sick Napoleon Dynamite impressions.
I just thought it was great, and then I didn't realise it was Payne that I'd already met, and I was like, so who's this guy? And then we ended up living together, and I was like, you were the guy with the Napoleon Dynamite. Alright, okay. Yeah. It was great. So where are we going now, lads? What
Alright, so how did we get to having a house, a shitty house in Birmingham? How did that happen?
Okay.
It was a lovely house, just to say.
So maybe a little backstory. Because you guys used to have a house together. And I think that kind of like starts something off a little bit. Like tell us maybe about how you guys...
Alright, so me and Omid, we used to have a lovely little home together.
We did. It was really lovely.
Really close to the gym. We had keys to the gym at that point. We were just going in the night. I put my trampoline in the gym so that I could train like on a trampoline inside.
Just because it was raining all the time and it was during the winter, and Kojo just took his trampoline down there and just set it up.
We carried it to the gym and put it up there.
It was dreadful.
But yeah, our house was alright. I got it. I mainly wanted to get that house with you because I dropped out of uni and my parents wouldn't let me have a trampoline in the garden. Now, when I was younger, I used to have a trampoline in the garden, but for some reason, it wasn't cool now. I couldn't have a trampoline in the garden, so I was having none of it. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get a job and I'm gonna get a house and I'm gonna get a trampoline. And I did that, and I got 3 trampolines. So that's the main reason, because I wanted a trampoline.
I kind of needed a home, so I was like, yeah, let's just get this house together.
Omid was homeless, so it worked out great.
It was. I was just working. Didn't want to live with my parents. Didn't want to, do anything but flips. So I was like, well, you do flips. Should we get a house? And then we just got a house, and that was it. And then we ended up living with all sorts of characters. It all got completely out of hand, and then we parted ways. There was a period where Kojo and I didn't really see each other because I was working all the time. Kojo was working. Kojo was living with some nurses. I was back with my parents for a bit, and then we were like, well, we should probably get a new house. And that's where these 2 bellends came in.
Okay. So then, me and Kyle were talking about getting a place just by chance at the same time. We were like, oh, we both want to leave the nest, I guess.
Yeah. Well, actually, like one thing is as well, like, because I remember I visited your guys' house, and I remember I came down there one time with like a one-way like bus ticket, because I was like, oh, I don't know, like I don't really have much plans. Like I was just working, for myself at the time. So I was like, maybe I'll just come down and just kind of train with you guys for a bit and just, I don't know, not have any like immediate plans to go home. But I remember like the day I got there or the day after, it was for a little gathering that you guys were having, and then I injured my hamstring and I was just so sad about it. No, actually I injured my hamstring and then my hard drive just got corrupted on the same day, and I lost all of my footage of like 3 months in America. So I was just really sad. So that night I booked a bus home, and that was like sort of testing the waters for me of maybe like moving to Birmingham. But like honestly, the times I would visit Birmingham before, I wasn't massive on it. It was just like not like, oh, I want to live in Birmingham.
Well, I was pretty certain that you weren't gonna move because you just didn't really fuck with Birmingham, and it's understandable. It's just great, and also you were only ever there when the weather was shit.
Yeah, it was always like the dull like winter times.
Birmingham's not as bad when it's sunny. Even if it's cold, it just looks a lot better. Whereas when it's not sunny, which is like 80% of the time, it just looks like a barren wasteland. It's not pleasant.
Yeah. But then I guess like going back home after that, I was just like, oh, home does kind of suck. And seeing you guys having that place, I'm like, oh, that would be really cool to live with trickers. And then I was kind of like just at that age where like that sort of makes sense to be doing. And then that's when I originally started talking with you about like, we should get a place. Yeah. And it'd be cool because even if it's just us, and there'll be a gym, like we could talk about tricks.
Yeah.
And
well, I guess it was me moving to Dundee because you had just a little bit more gym time at that point.
Yeah.
And that's ridiculous that felt like the move. Like, oh, I'll go to Dundee, and it'll be me and you, Dundee.
Yeah, like, it's literally like, and at the time it was a 1 hour gym session for the whole week. It was just Monday night, 9 until 10 p.m. And then I remember we even looked at like, I would look on like Gumtree for like house listings and stuff, and then I even like secured a viewing at this really shit house, as if like me and Peen would live there together, like
just like this weird couple,
the weirdest shittest house of all time.
You two were thinking the same. You were going to be a weird couple somewhere too.
Yeah.
We'd already been a weird couple because for the last 3 or 4 months, everyone else had moved out of our house, so it's just me and Omid. And so we were already a weird bent couple. But what worked out perfectly, my tenancy for the place where I was living with the Irish nurses, it ended in August, same month as Genetrix. So I just moved out of there. I was just back at my parents went to Genetrics, met these two Jebs looking for a house. Me and Omid thinking about a house. We all talking. We're like, let's get a house.
Yeah.
Is that how it came about?
Was it genetics?
Pretty much,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
I do remember that was like the securing of it. I think we had talked like, oh, maybe like Omid and Kojo would be trying to move or
I
something.
think we already
Something.
spoke in person.
Yeah.
At genetics.
At Genetrics, it was like, yo, we could actually do this. But I will say, like, I remember us talking about it and getting like all excited about it. But in my head, I was like, all right, it's probably not gonna happen though. You know what I mean? Like, we talked about a lot of things.
It's weird because the Garrison happening is kind of like very quick almost. Like it's us talking about it and then it very quickly goes to somehow, in my mind now, us just getting in a car, moving down to Birmingham and then
Yeah.
us living together.
There was a period, well, we were at High Gathering. I remember that. And then that was sort of the final, I don't know if we had secured a house at that
I
point.
wasn't at High Gathering.
Yeah, you were.
But how did we get the house, sir?
Well, there was a point where I think me and you were kind of on the same page where we thought it might not happen at all. And then I remember I mentioned to you at one point, I was like, honestly, I don't think this is going to happen because we tried to get so many different houses, but nowhere would accept us because who's going to accept 4 dickheads to live in that, any of their houses? That's not like a super shit house. So then it got to a point where we were like, might not happen. Oh, then Kojo ended up going and viewing a house. And then we got that house.
And the house, I was like, this house is shit. but the problem was, pretty much every 4-bedroom house, one of the bedrooms is ridiculously small. Like you can pretty much only fit a single bed in there and nothing else. Whereas this house, they were all kind of big enough. Like one of them was pretty small, but you could still fit a double bed and a wardrobe, which is fine, really. So I was like, it's shit, but it's got space for the trampolines. All the bedrooms are big enough. It's cheap, and the letting agent showing me around was like, the landlord just doesn't care. Like, probably it's never even been around. So I was like, yes, that's the one.
Exactly what we're looking for.
Yeah. I feel like the house that we did get, the first Garrison, although it was a shit house, it was good for the first Garrison. Like it served all, like everything we needed it to, pretty much.
No, it was great. I mean, it's funny because also like me and you never saw it. Like
Yeah.
I didn't see it either. It was just Kojo.
we just saw this house, and then we all just agreed to move to this house that we'd heard about, and then we drove down there. And
Yeah, we drove down in like the middle of the night as well. I remember it was like kind of scary. There was a big like accident on the M6. Yeah, so it was like sketchy drive there, and then we rocked up to this house at like 2 a.m. And I remember when I went in for the first time, I was like, God, this place gives me the chills. Like covered in spiders. It was filthy. We hadn't even moved in. Like it was cold. It was gross. But it was the Garrison.
Well, not yet.
Not yet.
I remember we just kind of got in and it was so late and dark. We just kind of like we were like, okay, just put our stuff down, fall asleep on these sofas, and start sorting life out tomorrow. And then it wasn't called the Garrison for a long time actually.
No.
We were going to IKEA a lot before we called it the Garrison.
It was only a couple of weeks though.
It wasn't that.
Well,
Wasn't it October?
It was before the next year.
Oh no, sorry, it was November. It was November. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's what it says on the bottom.
Yeah, the banner and the naming kind of happened around November.
So it was 3 weeks. 3 weeks
Yeah.
until we locked down the name.
So how did we come up with the name then? Should we explain that?
For the next phase of this, I'm pretty much just gonna have to sit out because I wasn't really knocking about much. I was just really sad and doing drugs and
Let's
injured.
not get onto that yet. One step at a time.
Nah, but for the first period, like I remember I got to the house and everybody else had already moved in, but I hadn't even been to the house yet for like a while, like a week or something.
Oh yeah.
I just hadn't been to the house, so I was like rocking up for the first time, and then I was like, fuck it now. And then I just wasn't there much.
I remember like when we were sorting out our rooms and we were moving everything out, like there were just spiders coming out of everything. That's my main first memory of the house, just spiders coming out of everything.
And I remember before we moved in, like when we were driving down it and whatnot, we were like saying, we're just trying to be like, oh, how bad could the house be potentially? And we're like, the only thing that could be really wrong with it is if there's like spider problem, some insane spider problem. I don't know. Just trying to think of weird problems. Turns out like that actually was a thing when we moved in. There was like a joke amount of spiders. I don't really care about them that much, but like there was a lot, and there were some of the biggest spiders I've ever seen. Like fat boys. Just
Fat boys.
most of them are dead. Pretty much all of them are dead, but like
boys.
still, they had gathered in the house.
Fat boy.
Yeah. So that was the Garrison was like before we.
Why did we call it the Garrison?
Oh yeah. Well, basically, I think we wanted a name that was like something Trigger House, but that because there's so many, you know, there's UK Trigger House, there's Luke Kick's Trigger House, and I think we wanted something a little bit more unique and brandable. So we were like, well, what's like a house that's not a house? What's different sort of words to convey that?
Do any of you remember anything else that we were considering?
Probably thinking stuff like
We're
for
into military sort of things.
Yeah.
And for the Garrison, because it's where they keep the men.
Yeah.
That's where they keep the lads.
It seems so obvious now that like it's the Garrison, but I remember even when that was suggested, we were like, the
we weren't set
Garrison,
on it.
and we were like, okay, well maybe let's just see what kind of sticks over the next couple of days.
I remember we said that if we keep saying it, then it will kind of become normal. And
Yeah.
it'll be fine.
And then I think we just kind of kept saying the Garrison, and then realized, okay, I guess it's the Garrison. What else?
Yeah, it's weird though with anything. Like it was the same with Plan Zero. Like there is no word that is like what it should be called. Really, like it kind of just becomes it as you do things within that name. Really.
Yeah, anything that has a name just becomes normal over time.
I think I didn't used to be called Kojo.
Yeah.
No one called me Kojo until I was 18.
Don't call me P
I
until I was like
hated that.
23.
I hated it when Kojo first came. Kojo. What? I was like nah. He's Sam. He's been
never
Sam.
said that.
He's been Sam for several years. Did you not notice that I called you Sam for so much longer than everybody else?
Who called you Kojo?
I wasn't paying attention.
Where did Kojo come from?
What's my name? My middle name. Well,
Yeah,
I put it.
But who started it? As a
I
thing?
put it on videos. I was
Okay,
like,
it was you.
yeah, I was like, I'm not gonna put Sam. Like, how many Sams are there? And I was like, well, there's no one else called Kojo. So when I first started posting tricking videos, I just put Kojo and then the name of the video. That's all. I didn't ever say it to anyone, but then just from doing that, more and more people started calling me Kojo.
You could have been like Kojo Maru or like
I
old
could've.
school tricking names. Kojo Star. I don't know. You know, like the weird old tricking names.
Kid Kojo.
Kid Kojo.
Kojo Mufu.
Kojo King of Demons. Kojo Wolf.
That leads us on to the next topic of discussion, which is announcing that we're changing the name of the Garrison.
Yeah.
We're going to call it Fort Donny.
I was thinking
Fort
you
Donny.
call it.
The big Donny endorsement.
We all ended up
Bring me
rocking
back
Donny.
to the Donnies. I used to rock the Donnies so hard, loved it. Just to piss Jay Fung off mainly, because he hated it.
Oh, you
'Cause
hated it.
I'd always act like Donnies were the best thing, and they were the coolest trackies you could get, and he hated it, and I loved it.
Oh, yeah, and then, yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's that.
you should now refer to us as Fort Donny.
Don't do that.
Don't ever call us the Garrison ever again. Before Donny now. Forever.
Alright, what's the
Donny.
next stage?
What was the next step? What happened after that?
Um,
Kyle was killing tricks. You were doing bits as well, but
I
you
was
weren't
doing-
tricking.
I was
you
in my
weren't.
prime.
Yeah, we were all, apart from you,
Yeah,
I think we
I
were
was
all
fine.
killing
You were
tricks. But so were you. That was like,
I was kind of, I don't know, getting stronger. Like, I'd never had a place where I could train as often as that. So, actually, when we first got to the Garrison, that was the first time I was training in gyms like multiple times a week.
Yeah.
And it fucking was killing me. Like, I would have one session a week where I could do okay tricks, and then I was flaccid. Like, the first couple months, I was struggling.
Little pig.
yeah.
I was really struggling, but it really like I don't know, I'd say 6 months later, like the difference was like quite substantial
Yeah.
after being at the Garrison. I got crazy stronger and stuff.
I just remember every session to me was like a gathering. I just remember being at the session, just being like, "Wah!" And I was just going and going and going. And then every session was like a hype gathering session. I feel like I had like at least 2 months of that until like maybe I got a little injured or something happened. I don't know, but I had good progression when I first moved there.
Yeah,
Same.
We're all
Same,
hyped about the
same.
Garrison in general, but also like, I don't know. I've never trained by myself, and up in Scotland, like there were other people at the session, but they weren't trickers. Like I was the only one. I felt like I was in my own little box, and suddenly I had all these other trickers, and it was hype, and it was all the time, and yeah, it was real vibe change in life when we first moved to the Garrison.
Yeah, it's lovely.
So tricks were going well. We made a Garrison sampler.
Yeah.
Things were popping off. The Carl started vlogging,
Yeah.
doing the weekly vlogs.
When did the vlog start?
The vlog started start of 2000. Well, the episodes started start of 2016.
Which is a couple months in. Like we.
No, like from January the 2016.
So a couple
So
months
yeah,
in.
yeah, a couple months from the start
Wait,
of the
what?
Garrison. Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah. I made weekly videos. Like I made them from January up until November,
Yeah, well,
and then in November, so I started going daily with it.
The first Garrison video is like introducing the UK Tricker House,
Yeah.
and then it's so innocent. It's like hi,
Yeah, we're all so young.
hi, and then eventually kind of became more Garrison-y, like less like random like.
We all grew beards.
Yeah. None of us had beards before.
And then we all got really old, really
Yeah.
And you got old and
Like-
shit.
so fast. It seems like the blink of an eye, and then none of us can do anything
Things were
worthwhile.
good until, I don't know, for me, it all went to shit late 2016. And then things just got slowly worse and worse from then on until now, for me. And things
You mean
similar
like
for you?
you mean tricks wise, like
Yeah, tricks wise, things just got worse.
I was kind of up and down. Like I had when we went to the Scotland airspace gathering thing. I fucked my leg.
Fuck this fat pad.
I did a skillful snapper and my knee landed like half a rotation short, and that fucked me for like 6 months. But then eventually I kind of got past that and kind of had an okay patch again, and then that again. I'd say I kind of had like 2 main spurts throughout the years of the Garrison so far.
Well, I think one thing that's interesting, like, and it's what we probably gauge our tricking on as well. It's like when we get injured now, it's like it's not like when you get injured when you're younger and then you're out for like 2 weeks. It's like when we get injured now, it's usually like 6 months to a year of like extended like repercussion of the injury.
Yeah.
And then within a year, like think about Jose or some of like the younger trickers that have been tricking like 3 years and they're already like insane. Like a year is a big difference for like, just say you drop off for a year and then you take a year and a half to get back to your original level. Your original level doesn't mean shit now because the new gen is way better than like what that is. So I think like for us, like as older trickers now, we're like a little bit hit more by the injuries and then we're just trying to get back to that level and progress past it, but that level doesn't hold the same weight as it did back before the injury.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't know. I mean, respect to all the old trickers out there, because you know, Matteo being the oldest and strongest, because it gets harder for sure.
It gets way harder.
gets way harder.
It's weird though because it's still not quite as hard as a lot of the people made out when we were younger. I know from what
It kind of
we were
is.
told.
We're just better.
Nah, but it's like not
But
not the age, because I
tricking level's
remember.
just higher, like-
Nah, I'm talking like the times in which they were telling me that it started going downhill. For example, Wingen and Severin were saying when you hit about 20 to 21, it starts going to shit, and that's just not the case for most
True,
people.
yeah.
It's
yeah.
normally
Got
around.
a few more years.
It's normally around 23, 24 that everything starts going piss. But
I think it kind of depends when you get a major injury, really.
Yeah,
Like,
and
if you
how
get- yeah.
like when you start tricking and the conditions of that. If you've been tricking on grass for 10 years, your body's going to be a certain type of way. Like, and if you've been tricking in the gym for 5 years, like ideal conditions, it doesn't matter what age you are throughout all of them. Like, I think the grass tricking is going to take a bigger toll on your body.
I don't think it necessarily, like with you saying, I don't think it's dependent on when you have your first big injury, because I know both me and you had our first big injuries, and that wasn't the point that it got completely fucked. It was shortly after that when you start getting, like when you get back to full health, and then all of a sudden 2.5 years have passed, and you're like, right, I'm feeling pretty good now, But then 2.5 years have passed, so you're a lot older, and then you start getting little injuries, and then you're out for a week, and then all of a sudden you go to the gym to try and lift, and you completely fuck your back or your tricep or something like that, and like
something that's a brand new experience that if you're a younger tricker you won't know about, but this is what happens when you get older. I can feel fine. Some days I can feel fine, and while I'm on the way to the gym, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do a single trick or not. I can walk into the gym and my body can hurt too much for me to do a trick. It can have been feeling completely fine. I'll try and warm up, can't do a single trick. That doesn't happen when you're younger. Like, you kind of know you're going to get to trick, but now it's like maybe I won't be able to trick this week. Maybe I'll injure myself walking up the stairs and I won't be able to trick that. Like, this happens all the time when you get older. It's really bad.
When you're younger as well, you get one injury and then that injury lasts X amount of time and you just kind of carry on with your life. It's maybe a couple of days, maybe a week or two, but then you're just kind of fine. Whereas one injury usually leads to several other injuries without even doing anything. Like, I remember when I hurt my back, I was just driving to the gym. I was literally just sat in the car. I felt fine. I'd been training loads, but I'd rested for this session. Driving to the gym, I felt this tweak in my back. I was like, what is that? Get to the gym, start trying to warm up, and that was it, game over. Just killing me for weeks. And I was just trying to push through and keep doing more tricks. But then the injury just kept persisting. It was changing location in my back. It started off in the lower back, and then it ended up going all the way down and into my hip, and then into my hip flexor. And I was like, how is this happening? I wasn't tricking. It didn't make any sense. And that was my first introduction to that kind of shit. And then now it's just like that every time.
Off the subject of how terrible everything is. Things are pretty terrible. It's like you can never have it all at the same time. Like, we have a much nicer house now, but we all feel terrible. Yeah. So it's like it's a balance, yin and yang, and all that. But yeah, next stage of Garrison history.
Well, I guess. Well, where did we tie that up with? Just us, like
the good sessions.
Good sessions when we moved in.
2016 was good.
I suppose it just kind of, regardless of how we felt, the next stage in the Garrison was pretty much just us being like, right, okay, we should start thinking about getting another house. But then it didn't actually happen for at least a year and a half.
Yeah. And then within that year and a half, the house started to get really fucked up, and I would say a big part of that was because of, well, we all kind of got in on it. Like, it was just like the house got kind of shit, so I would use it in my videos. I would do like stupid shit. Like, we put a trampoline in the house. We would just like fuck the house up with like house parties and stuff. Just got a little bit out of hand towards the end, and then that's when we were really just kind of trying to look for the new house. The old one just...
It was just too small at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, we were talking about a new house for a while, but then I'd say 3 to 6 months after that, we really noticeably started to outgrow the house. There was no space for anything anymore. Like, you were trying to do this podcast from your room, and you were moving like your whole room every time you were doing the podcast and stuff, and it was like, right, clearly
this isn't
we could do with an extra room or something. And now we got hella rooms. Yeah,
but I mean, maybe not to jump ahead, but this house, people don't even know the struggle involved with this house that we're in right now. No one knows. This house was 1,000,000 times harder than the old Garrison to get.
So we started the house search, and we were like, we need a house that has at least 5 bedrooms. We need to have a spare room. We need some extra space. Hopefully have 2 like reception rooms, so that we can do more shit with them. And we looked at a few different places. It was hard to find somewhere that would accept us.
We found what we thought was the one. We were so excited. Peen was...
Never saw it.
You were in Scotland, weren't you?
Yeah, I've never seen this.
Peen was away. Me, Kyle and Kojo went to see this house. And when we got there, we were all so excited.
It was beautiful.
We were so unbelievably excited. It was big. It was way bigger than we could have ever imagined for the price that we were looking at, and it was just perfect. So then the guy that was showing us around, he was like, "Yeah, I'm pretty certain. Like, I know the landlord, and my boss knows the landlord. I'm pretty certain we could get something to happen pretty fast." So we're all getting a little bit excited. We're like, "Holy shit, this is going to be amazing!" Obviously, I get a phone call And it was so unexpected. I just didn't know he was going to call me, and he was just like, "Yeah, landlord said no one but families. Right, cheers, bye." I was like, "Fucking hell, Jesus Christ!" And then we started looking at other spots, and it just wasn't to be.
Yeah, that like old person place.
Yeah, dude. Like when we didn't get that first house that we were really sold on, I was like, damn, like if we can't get that house, I just felt like there was actually almost no hope. And then I started to feel like, well, you know, the way that the old Garrison was at the time, it was so shit. And for me, it was actually like I can't be here for that much longer. Like there's no way I could be here for another whole year or however long it takes to get another house. And when that house fell through, I was like, shit. And then we went to see some others, but none of them were quite right. Where like each house was either like,
there were just things missing. There was nothing that was quite perfect, whereas that other house, it had more than we needed. So obviously going from that to then going to be like, I suppose we could maybe make it work.
Yeah.
But you're paying more or the same price. It's like, well, this is shit.
Well, we were getting kicked out of the old house as well.
That is a fact.
Because
of.
the landlord was selling the old house and planning to... The new landlord even came in and looked around. They got the new guy who was going to buy the house, just brought him in while we're there, and he's just walking around like, yeah, I knocked this wall through, and then just in our house.
Yeah.
Didn't mention to us like how long it was going to be until we had to leave, but
we knew we had to be out soon, and we knew it was very difficult for us to find a house that would actually take us. And then I remember like this house that we're in right now, I had seen it listed online. And it didn't, like online, it seemed like a nice house, but it didn't seem like a great house for us.
I remember we were looking and we were like, I kept skimming over it because there was some reason, whatever it was. I remember while we were doing our own individual searches to then talk to each other about, we were all kind of like, well, no, not this one. But for whatever reason.
I think for me, it was because this house was the most expensive out of all of them. And it also didn't have like much of a grassy garden area, and that was one thing we were looking for. We were looking for somewhere that would have both tramps and be able to trick and stuff. But the benefit of this house, it does have has a koi pond, so it has that. But it wasn't quite what we were looking for. But I remember when we went to go look at this place, we had that same feeling. It was like we pretty much immediately told him we want it, like in the same way that we did with the first house. Yeah. And were we all here when we seen this for the first time? I feel like one of us wasn't.
No, wasn't.
You weren't here again when
I came for the second viewing maybe.
Never there.
Busy, I don't know.
Anyway, yeah, so then we had all sorts of trials and tribulations we had to deal with to get this house. It was so many phone calls, so many emails, and so many days of all of us just being like, I don't want to get excited, but he's given us some promising news, and we had to deal with Chris Jackson, all sorts of stuff. And then
don't throw any names out there.
Yeah.
In case you're watching,
Chris Thomas Jackson.
Yeah, but no, like to get this house, it wasn't like a normal family or a normal person getting a house. Like they had to make changes to this house to even make it possible for us to live here, and that meant the landlord like putting thousands into it, and basically we thought that there was absolutely no way we would get this house. And because of new laws and regulations coming into play in October, which like stand now, we thought like if we don't get this house, we're not going to get any house in the caliber that we want. So it was actually like, I would say like the chances of us getting this were probably like 5%, 10%, I don't know, like very slim, but we got it. And I'm glad.
Yeah.
It's like 3 times as expensive as the other Garrison now.
And now we're all broken and we have no money because it's so expensive.
Old and broken.
But we got a steam room, so it's not that bad.
Doesn't matter when you got irreparable injuries, though.
We got this orb.
It really doesn't matter. Yeah, we've got an orb. You see, the orb and / conch is the only thing that's keeping me going. The only thing.
Yeah.
So that's the history of the Garrison. That's brought you up to date with Garrison stuff and where we're at now. Now we got a sweet table from IKEA.
Cracking piece of kit.
Yeah, it's not so bad.
Don't order from IKEA though, because IKEA suck ass.
Yeah.
They fuck you about.
Yeah, fuck IKEA.
Yeah, fuck IKEA.
Nah.
But also sponsor us IKEA if you want.
Yeah, I mean, I'm only saying fuck IKEA because it took 2 weeks longer
delivery,
to
yeah.
deliver this.
But we're happy with the table.
Yeah, great table. So, yeah.
We're in two minds about IKEA.
Yeah.
Fuck you and thank you.
Also,
we love
yeah, thank you, we love you. But anyway, make sure you check out these two scratch sniffies on the social medias. Check us out as well. Follow the show. Subscribe. Ask us some questions. We might not respond. We might. Who knows?
You might. I probably will.
I struggle, bro.
I try my best.
Do you know how many Instagram accounts I've got now?
I respond on most.
It's getting out of hand. But yeah, that's it. So, yeah, anyone else? You want to say anything?
Buy my clothing. I just released a bunch of stuff. There's a massive link in the description. It's linked like 5 times in a row, so you won't miss it. Just go down below and get yourself a little pair of leather trousers. Thank you.
It's on meatspin.com.
Yeah. Anyway.
And maybe just kind of see what I'm up to. I'm doing like.
Don't do it.
I'm doing like.
Don't do it.
Like next level shit
don't do it.
over on youtube.com/Sean Sevestre. You won't even believe your eyes or your ears or your nose.
If you're into cross dressing,
I have somehow patented added smell sense to YouTube videos. If you want to see the first smell vision YouTube videos, go to youtube.com/Sean Sevestre and buy my smell pack for $25.99 and and it's all there. It's all great.
None of that's true. He dresses up as a woman.
Buy my smell pack.
Bye.
Alright, it's
Bye.
End of podcast.
Bye.
It's over.
Bye.
Bye.